The Rock buries his year-long Cody Rhodes feud. On Netflix, Hulk Hogan gets booed. On Netflix. And the debut episode of Monday Night Raw on Netflix was, well, kind of a house show, I guess. Like, it was definitely a spectacle, but an empty spectacle. On Netflix! I'm Ollie Davis, no longer your always defending Jam That Champion, and this is the WrestleTalk News special on the WWE Raw debut on Netflix. Remember to super kick that subscribe button if you're not already, as we have daily wrestling news and reviews to keep you up to date on the road to WrestleMania.
Support WrestleTalk!
Get exclusive bonus videos over at patreon.com/WrestleTalk. The show started with the excellent cold open video package WWE had actually uploaded to YouTube earlier in the day. A montage not just of the history of WWE, but of professional wrestling itself, stretching back to its carnival roots with a visual metaphor that turned the ring canvas into a literal canvas, where the sport's biggest stars would paint their stories and sponsors would put their logo. But in acknowledging where wrestling has come from and the nature of its art, they arguably did the one thing its legacy always swore to protect. The opening video package told you that wrestling was scripted. Literally, it started with someone literally typing a script next to the ring. The Netflix era, as Triple H called it later on, which I think is the fourth era so far this year, has started by being upfront with their new audience about wrestling's biggest trick. That all the fighting and feuding you see in WWE is a fiction. It's an enormously significant evolution of the wrestling industry, arguably as much as going on Netflix itself. One of the most frustrating barriers to normal people getting into wrestling is every fan's most hated question, wasn't that fake? By answering that right at the start of the Netflix era, WWE are hoping to disarm these normies' prejudices to show them that, hey, you can enjoy this like all the other fake things you consume, like Marvel movies, Game of Thrones, and Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. In my opinion, it's a beautifully subtle way to usher kayfabe into the modern streaming world. So it was a bit disappointing when it was all loudly undermined by The Rock. After Triple H welcomed us in the ring to the Netflix era, the show properly got underway with a huge pop for the final boss's entrance. I say the final boss, but it could also be The Rock, or Dwayne Johnson, or the star of Redone, or TKO board director, because The Rock seemingly just shows up and does what he feels like doing on that given week. Not my speculation, but the actual words of a recent interview with Triple H, and it can create a fair bit of character inconsistency. And I would say people don't want character inconsistency. They very specifically much want The Rock's final boss character from WrestleMania 40. Instead, we got Corporate Rock. A not fun Attitude Era Corporate Rock, but Netflix thanking multiple vertical satisfying TKO board director Corporate Rock. He came out with his rather lame custom belt, which is going to be confusing to a new viewer anyway. Wait, he beat Muhammad Ali's widow for the title, and started by saying, finally, the WWE has come back to Netflix, which the crowd were a bit confused by, seeing that the last time WWE were on Netflix was for that Mr. McMahon docuseries that exposed all the sexual misconduct from its founder. I'm guessing he meant to say The Rock has come back to Netflix after his Christmas defection to Amazon Prime with his multiple vertical hit Redone. But then he carried on with a heavily babyface promo that came off as cynically promoting WWE's new corporate partnership rather than what people actually wanted, which was his foul-mouthed megastar final boss character. But I get it, it's a new era. Have The Rock come out and do the big babyface promo to welcome everyone in. Where it became problematic, and for me threw off the whole vibe of the rest of the show, was when he thanked Cody Rhodes and joked about him saying hi to Mama Rhodes, while Cody was 10 feet away from him standing in the audience. The biggest feud in WWE right now is actually Cody Rhodes versus The Rock. It's what set the company alight in the build to last year's WrestleMania, where The Rock was very, very mean about Mama Rhodes. What they directly set up when The Rock gave something to Cody before he left in April, and what they picked up again with The Rock's throat slit gesture to Cody and Roman Reigns at the end of October's Bad Blood. So to see The Rock thank Cody here like they've somehow patched up the biggest story in the company off screen over Christmas while watching Redone on Amazon Prime, to the extent where he can just joke joke about Mama Rhodes, and Cody, with his poor kayfabe-breaking heart, just has to stand there and smile back. It brings back a lot of the bad memories from when The Rock tried to breeze past WWE's Cody plans from last January, because I'm starting to believe he's just going to try and do him versus Reigns again. Or maybe not, maybe he's not doing anything, I don't know anymore. Because the first match of the show was Roman Reigns taking on Solo Sikoa in tribal combat, not just for the Ulu Fala, but also for Paul Heyman. It followed the usual bloodline match template with more weapon spots because anything goes. There were chairs, kendo sticks, and Roman putting Solo through a table. That's when New Blood started to interfere, which brought down Jey Uso and Sami Zayn to fight them off. The best interference spot was then Kevin Owens, who hit a stunner for a great Solo near fall. But Cody ran down with his music to fight KO off, even though I thought he was by the ringside just now. Roman hit 2 spears to win for Optimum Sports Entertainment. Yep. In hindsight, I have no idea why I predicted WWE would beat Reigns on their Netflix debut. I have lost my beloved championship belt. And Luke is your new Jam That Champion. The Rock then came down to the ring to present Roman with the Ulu Fala. This was the moment to do something interesting, where The Rock would suddenly hit him with a rock bottom and reveal that weird opening promo was all a ruse. But instead, they hugged. And that was it. For actual kayfabe-keeping conflict, go to patreon.com/WrestleTalk now, where you can watch the whole exclusive Mustache Night War series of me versus Luke, as episode 5 has just gone live. That's patreon.com/WrestleTalk. Here's a clip of me being excellent at the game. So, three-way specialist, Rude and Dragunov. Did I promise Dragunov 2 weeks off?
Was that in your emails?
Yeah. I just kind of thought he'd be greyed out. I had to remember that today.
Yeah, you'd have to remember that. I have fallen foul of that before as well. Oh, no. And he won.
Angry.
And it's disappointing and nothing.
And nothing furthered. Keeping the good PR going, WWE then announced the 2026 Royal Rumble will take place in Saudi Arabia, and then they showed Ashton Kutcher in the crowd. 22-year-old Ollie is going to hate me for saying this, but thank God for a John Cena promo. He kind of cut the same promo as The Rock, overlong, look how many people there are, thank you Netflix, fans are the best, goosebumps, goosebumps, goosebumps. But where he was crucially better is that he actually said something of substance that set up a future direction, which is a fundamental part of a weekly wrestling show, and somehow the only segment on this 3-hour episode that did it. He ran through names he could face in his retirement year, like Drew McIntyre, CM Punk, Logan Paul, Gunther and Cody Rhodes, but that he doesn't see that record-breaking 17th world title win happening. To do something like that would require a miracle, like winning the Elimination Chamber, holding the Money in the Bank briefcase, or winning the Royal Rumble. In his typical goofy fashion, which I hated 10 years ago, but now it's somehow aged into nostalgia, he promised that's what he'll do, which will be a great storyline for the Rumble match. I hope he gets eliminated immediately. The biggest pop of the night came next, though, for Macaulay Culkin sitting in the crowd. And just behind it was Rhea Ripley beating Liv Morgan for the Women's World Championship. They wrestled a good match, with Liv kicking out of the Riptide, Rhea kicking out of the Oblivion. Wasn't a good night for finishers, but Ripley blocked a second Oblivion to hit 2 consecutive Riptides to win. Dom got in the ring to try hug the new champion afterwards, but Ripley kicked him in the balls and hit a Riptide on him instead. And if you thought the Undertaker cameo at WrestleMania 40 was out of place, Netflix wants you to hold its red cup, because the American Badass then entered, rode around the ring on his motorbike, and did the Brothers of Destruction pose by the entrance with Ripley to end the segment. Reportedly, WWE decided to do this rather than what they originally had planned, which was the return of Becky Lynch. I don't really care about the gratuitous dead man cameo. It's a house show pop for what weirdly feels like the biggest house show of all time. What I more mind is Dominic trying to hug Ripley. For me, that should have been Dom trying to lay a trap. He goes to hug Ripley for Raquel to jump her from behind, but Rhea's too smart and beats up both Raquel and Dom anyway. But because it was just Dom trying to hug Rhea, that implies he's leaving Liv, and really just wants whoever is the women's champion. That's a good story too, as it's a serious receipt for both Mysterio and Morgan. But we didn't get a scene of Liv and Dom falling out over it because we needed to get to the Undertaker spot. In isolation, it's fine, but on a show that didn't really set up any future storylines, and often put WWE's great recent character work secondary to superficial legend cameos, it took the heart out of Raw. Bayley seemed to agree to come to Monday nights backstage with Adam Pearce, and Chad Gable demanded a match against the best luchador in the world for next week. It should always be Penta. The Rock was seen babyface mugging even harder backstage, saying hi to Travis Scott, hugging Cody, taking a swig of tequila and driving a car, and then saying he'll see us tomorrow on NXT. Continuing the illegal behaviour, a spliff-smoking Travis Scott then came out for Jey Uso's entrance against Drew McIntyre. The yeeting was off the charts, which might have exhausted the crowd, as they weren't as into the match, barely popping when Jey kicked out of a Claymore, one of the most protected finishers in the company. Jey collapsed before Drew could hit a second Claymore, but that allowed him to roll up McIntyre and get a surprise win. But instead of letting us see the aftermath, the feed quickly cut to a Gunther video package, throwing the pace off a bit. The New Day have refused to wrestle in front of LA, so they'll have their match next week. Roman and Heyman were shown walking backstage, where a 2K25 reveal was teased for the 26th of January. Then arguably came the funniest thing on the show. Hulk Hogan trying to cut a babyface promo in front of a crowd that mostly hated him. It was an odd move for WWE to bring in Hogan for the show, as just a few weeks ago they removed every reference from him in their Saturday night's main event video packages, which was quite the task, considering he's in all of the main events. But I guess that real American beer money talks. So Hogan, the guy who was getting cancelled before cancelling was cool, talked about how great the fans are and how they've stuck with him through thick and thin, while the crowd said, "Boo! Boo! Boo." He tried to get cheered by saying the names of wrestlers fans like his former partners, the Macho Man and Andre the Giant, but then he finished saying the greatest partner of all is Netflix, which got Netflix booed. This was a hilarious failure. But WWE can bring back all the problematic people they want if it means I get to keep their new, stunning, moving match graphics. Oh my god, this was the best thing on the show. Those are the best match graphics I've ever seen. Stephanie McMahon was shown in the crowd, and then it was time for the main event. CM Punk and Seth Rollins had a really good big-time match, with Seth's arrogance arguing with the referee, using Punk's own moves against him, arguably causing his downfall. Seth hit a GTS, then Punk hit a stomp, Seth hit another GTS when maybe he should have been going for his own finisher, then he hit 2 pedigrees for another Punk kickout. Both men were on their knees slapping each other in the face. Seth busted out the buckle bomb and his first stomp, which Punk excellently just got his foot on the ropes for. Punk then reversed a Falcon Arrow into 2 GTSs for the win for a great finish, and off air, he declared himself for the Royal Rumble. And that was it. With no big cliffhanger angle to end the show, no Drew and Owens attacking Punk starting a new heel faction, no Punk calling out his favour, no Roman stare down. The Netflix debut on Raw, which I feel should have been the start of the road to WrestleMania, with lots of exciting angles, actually acted as a very safe show, booking the wrap-ups for the major feuds still running from last year. This week's Raw is 68%. Who are the 10 best Royal Rumble winners of all time? Watch the brand new episode of Tables, Lists and Chairs to find out now.